Hi, it's Adam Biter for Adam and Peyton's Album Talks. Today we're going to have episode 18. We're going to be discussing Rites of Passage, a 1992 album by the Indigo Girls. While I wait for my co-host to join me, feel free to drop anything you like in the comments. Awesome, here he is. Alright, should be good, should be good. Let's see. Just waiting for my co-host to join, and we should be good to start soon. How's everybody doing today? Everybody having a good day? Hey, Peyton,
Oh,
there you are. Hi.
oh, the volume was very loud.
Oh,
Hello,
sorry
how's
about
it
that.
going?
It's
No,
going
no,
really
no,
well.
no, that was my fault.
That's okay.
Ah, I'm nervous though, hearing all about this. We might have to have a shutdown again. I really am not looking
It,
forward to that if
it's
that's
not
the
the best news.
case.
It's not the best news. I mean, the uptick in cases is certainly disconcerting. I
Definitely.
mean, whatever the state and the school decides is best, I'll stand behind that decision. But yeah, it might unfortunately result in something that would be a bit of an
Yeah.
inconvenience to us. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and the way they're having it set up, I don't think it's the most convenient either. Because they're having like 20, what is it, like 20-minute periods and then
right.
never mind. I don't really
Yeah,
know.
I know what you mean. It is weird. It's unprecedented and strange. Yeah,
Well, this whole thing has been unprecedented and strange,
that's
so
very true. That's
it's just
this
something
year.
weirder to add on top of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's just get ahead with this talk, all right?
Sure, I'm super excited for this one.
All right, so this is the Indigo Girls from 1992, Rites of Passage, eh?
Yeah, their fourth album.
All right, well, I know you're eager to hear what I think of it.
Absolutely.
I thought it was interesting. The thing is, I don't see them as rock. I don't see them as being rock. They're more folk. A lot more
Yeah,
folk. They have a lot more of acoustic guitar,
it
which
kind of
I
goes
like. I
together.
like
Yeah.
acoustic, but I don't really consider them rock because that's what I've seen from the Wikipedia page. And I just don't see it.
I mean, it's sort of like a bridging the gap sort of thing. I'd say it's closer to soft rock than maybe the hard rock that you think of when you think
I
rock immediately.
guess.
But like,
Yeah.
they do have rock influences, and they might actually be a little bit less apparent on this album than on some other albums. Their next album, Swampophilia, if you get the chance to listen to that, it does have a bit more rock into it. And then their next album after that, Shaming of the Sun, which came in 1997, that has even more rock. And then
Okay.
after that, their
Although
career sort of
I
started to
did
get
hear a couple of,
yeah,
I heard a couple hints of it here and there within this album.
right.
And it's a pretty heavy album. There are 13 songs, 15 if you count the two live tracks. I didn't listen to them. I didn't figure
That's okay.
I really
Me neither,
needed
because
to.
they're not really part of the album. They're bonus tracks
No,
that were
they're
included with the 10th anniversary reissue. So I
yeah,
don't think they're really
exactly.
part of the original album.
Yeah, I don't see that. But
Yeah,
without further ado, let's just get right into it. All right,
absolutely.
so number one is called Three Hits. I'm not finding a lot of information on this album really, so I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure what the song is about.
Well, it was
Does it
dedicated to the
start?
memory of an American poet named Frank Stanford. It
Oh,
has to do with
okay.
like I mean the chorus is three hits to the heart, son, and it's poetry in motion. So like you get the sense that it's about
Hmm.
like somebody who was like a master of words and but had a lot of struggles in his life, like maybe like mental illness or depression or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that the
I
songs,
can kind of see it ish.
yeah, I think it's a great way to start the album because it's just it
Mhm.
was written by Amy Ray, who is the lower singer of the two, and usually
She's
the
an
person
alto.
usually the one of the two who wrote the song will be kind of like the lead singer on the song, and so Amy's the lead singer on this song.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and
So they
it's got a lot of
switch.
it's definitely got a lot of
So,
instrumentation, especially in the middle section where it starts incorporating all these really cool like Irish instruments. And I feel like that sort of motif, that Irish folk music style, is something that recurs on the album a lot, and it kind of gives the album a certain character.
I
It's like
can
very
kind of
unique.
hear it here and there.
Yeah, like
That
with the Irish
Irish
fiddle,
folk
and then you got like the
influence.
Irish pipes going. It's It's very cool. And then
Yeah,
Amy
they
has
have.
a great.
I think they have accordion once or twice.
Yeah, I think so
No,
too.
harmonica. Harmonica they have. I know
Right. Yeah.
for certain. Uh, but yeah, that's an interesting track to start off. To be honest, I wasn't in love with it. I didn't like it as
Yeah.
much as some of
It's
the
not the
other
best
ones
song
on
on the
here.
album. It's good, but it's not the best. Like there's better to come, I'd
But it
say.
was a single too, so
That's
it's just
true.
interesting
Yeah.
to
I
see
didn't
how
notice
the
you were wearing your
songs
your
change.
Sergeant Pepper's shirt. That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
That's really cool. Love it.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we
Yeah.
might do that in the future. Hint, hint.
Maybe. Well, overall, I thought Three Hits was a solid way to start the album.
Yeah, although I think the second song, Galileo, is where you really start to hear
Yeah. This is
their
a good one. This became really
musicality, their
popular.
brilliance. Yeah, and it got its own video. Now, the video I'm going to comment on, it seemed a little too similar to another video I've seen before, which
What
is Van
video?
Halen's Right Now off of
Oh, it was
the.
similar to that video. Maybe it was sort of like an homage to
Well,
that.
it could be. I didn't know. I thought
Like,
it was kind of stealing, but I don't want to call it stealing. I
yeah,
just
but what did it
because
did it use?
the album came out the year before, for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Not going to say the short version of that.
Did it use the same format where it like showed a bunch of quotes on the screen as they were like dancing and playing
Yes.
guitar?
Well,
Oh, that's what I
maybe
thought.
not exactly quotes, but it was more just like advice and kind of things that
Yeah,
are
that's the
happening
sense that I got
like
too.
right now, because that's the name of the song.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like how they mixed in like quotes from famous figures and then quotes from Amy and Emily themselves.
That's true, and they had some very interesting costumes in that
Yeah,
video.
I loved the
And they're like
costumes.
all these like, are they like real, like historical figures they were supposed to be playing? Because
I
one
think
of them
so.
dressed
I
up
think
as like
part of it.
an Egyptian queen or something,
Yeah.
and
I
one
think
was
part
like
of the album, part of the song's significance is that it talks a lot about reincarnation and how like she feels like she's lived all these past lives and been in all these strange foreign famous places, and now she's here and
situation.
like she's wondering what to do with her life now that she's here. Um, it's
Yeah,
an
she.
interesting song, though. It's very thought provoking. This is an Emily
And
song, so
oh, well,
yeah.
I mean, but the video, it seems like both of them got to put in their own 2 cents as to
Yeah,
what they
that's the
thought.
wonderful thing about the Indigo Girls is that even though they write their own songs independently, they both get to contribute so much to each other's songs. Like they both have awesome guitar parts. They have amazing harmonies.
Oh yeah,
Did
that's
I
the
mention
thing
that?
that they really focus
Yeah,
on this album. I noticed a lot of harmony in that, but they do it so well. They're very melodic with it.
yeah, absolutely. Did I mention that
Something
I
else I
love the
noticed.
bridge, especially of this when they do the line, "If we wait for the time till our souls get it right, then at least I know there'll be no nuclear annihilation in my lifetime. I'm still not right." It's got a great outro there when they're doing that harmonizing and they're going over the
Yeah.
solid drum beat. It's just a very inspiring, powerful bridge. It's one of my favorite
Yeah,
bridges in all of pop music, I'd say.
yeah, as inspiring as you can get talking about nuclear annihilation.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I mean it's the lyrical nuances are definitely very deep in this song. But overall, it's just something you can rock out to. It's got a great vibe to it.
Well,
I think,
I wouldn't necessarily say rock out to. Like I
but
said, it's got
you
to
know what
be
I
a
mean.
little
Like
bit
just bop your
like
head to it.
jam out to. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you can bop your head a little bit to that.
Yeah.
Although I think a later song I can bop my head to just a little bit more, but
Oh, I
I
think I know which
definitely
one you're talking
recommend
about.
this one.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Uh,
Yeah. But overall,
but it's
Galileo is a
not the
great
next
song, and I
one.
think its popularity is well deserved.
Yeah. Number 3 is called Ghost.
Oh my
Now
god,
I
I
took
love this.
this. Now I took this to be like about a distant relationship.
It
I
could be about that,
think,
or it could be about a relationship with somebody who's died and like the hold they have on you
or
after they.
literal ghost.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways it's about that, but it also could be about just a distant relationship or an estranged relationship.
Yeah, because I think it would be weird if she was dating a ghost. Just a
I mean, it would
little
be.
far-fetched, but
Yeah,
I don't know. They use a lot of literary references in their songs.
they do.
A
Yeah,
lot of these.
definitely. And I mean, Ghost
Mhm.
is just such a beautiful. I mean, it builds from like such a soft intro to this absolutely powerful chorus, and it's just such beautiful harmonies, and it's by the end of the song, or more like the climax of the song, and then there's some falling action near the end, and then it ends very soft again. But there's this one part where it just climaxes to this absolutely beautiful orchestral. So did you know that Michael Kamen? Do you know him? He did strings for The Wall by Pink Floyd. He did all the string arrangements,
Really?
and he also did the score for the movie Mr. Holland's Opus and the HBO miniseries Band
I
of
haven't seen
Brothers.
that.
He was a pretty prolific composer and arranger, and he arranged the string arrangement on this song.
Yeah, I noticed they used a lot of strings in their songs, especially with the
They
violin
do,
and,
yeah.
as I previously mentioned, acoustic guitar.
Right.
So
I think that just adds
they're
to the
really
texture, that very stringy acoustic sound, and yet it has such a full sound too. I mean,
and it's
there's so
comforting.
many good lines in this. There's so many good lines in this song too.
Yeah, it's a cute song, about a ghost or just a distant relationship. We're still kind of torn between the
Yeah.
two, but
It's very haunting and
whatever it
really
is
beautiful.
about it, yes, I would agree with that. Whatever
Yeah,
it's about, it's definitely hauntingly beautiful.
yeah.
But yeah, so this is the song I was talking about that I can bop
Right.
to a little bit
I thought
more.
so.
Number
Yeah.
4, Joking.
This is another popular one. They also released a music
Oh,
video for
it's
this one.
joking, brother.
Yeah, it's got a great vibe to it, doesn't it? I mean, this is an Amy song, and a lot of times the Amy songs don't get as popular as the Emily songs, which is kind of a shame because she does write
This one
awesome
did.
music as well. But
This one did.
Joking got pretty popular, and
The single.
the music video is super fun to watch. I mean, it's just got such cool characters in it and such cool
Yeah,
scenery.
just walking around, having a blast.
It
Really,
really captures that sort of
it's the
freewheeling period of the
'90s.
early '90s. That's what I kept seeing.
Yeah,
Like when I would look through the YouTube comment section, it's like
economy's
these videos
good.
take
Let's
me
have
back to like
fun.
these videos take me back to the glory days of the early '90s. Like I was seeing all these
Yeah.
people like they were in high school or college around that time, and like
Hmm.
these songs just take them back to that period.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but I'm glad you like "Joking" because that is a really good song.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
love
I'd say that
how
was
she
my
like makes
personal
you think
favorite.
that she stopped the song and then she comes back into it. She's like 1, 2, 3, 4, da, 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 and she starts up again. I think
It's one
that's
of
really
those
clever. A little fake out
false
there.
ending. Yeah, fake out,
Yeah.
false ending type of things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They're very deliberate in
They are.
their
Every choice on this
wording
album
of
is extremely
lyrics.
deliberate. Yeah.
Yeah, in their lyrical content as well as their musicality, I think. It's
Absolutely.
kind of a unseen type of brilliance underneath.
I would agree.
Is
Yeah.
It's refreshing to hear sometimes because right now, really all we have is, I don't want to say all of it is shallow and boring, but there's a lot of music out there right now that's just kind of shallow and boring. I hate
I
to
know what
say
you
it.
mean. Yeah. But this album
Not
is
all
definitely
of it.
full of
I
heart.
don't want to. Yes. I mean, I have kind of a fondness for using, like real instruments as well. I mean, you can use
Yeah.
all the technology you want, but you got to have at least some instrument under that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't consider it music. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, we're inventing new
whatever.
instruments all the time, but like, I'd still like to definitely see a mixture of the old with the new.
Exactly. You got to have that balance. That's
Right.
all that you need. It's the ticket.
Yeah. If you get the chance to check out the Indigo Girls album that they released this year, I would also highly recommend that. I mean, we've kind of kept to a thing where we don't really do like
Older
newer
than
albums,
now.
but we do classic albums. So I would rather have done like a classic Indigo Girls album like this one for our album talks. But if you do get the chance to
Oh
listen,
yeah.
it's called Look Long. It's really good. It's a phenomenal work. I think they did a bang up job with it.
I'll have to check that one out. What's it called again? Or just
Look Long.
Look long. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got two to look out for.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, but let's move on to number
Oh,
5. I really liked this one too. I thought it
yeah,
had a
this
lot
is
of
another good one.
intrigue attached to it. Jonas and Ezekiel, which
Yeah.
is a
Did you know,
strange name for a song,
so do you
but
know the story
they make it work.
behind the title?
Well, I assumed that it was a biblical reference.
Well,
A reference to the Bible.
it does sound like a biblical reference, but in
Sounds like
reality, it was Amy Ray did a lot of research for this song, and Jonas and Ezekiel were two names that she found inscribed on gravestones in a slave cemetery because she lives in the South.
oh,
Yeah, it's an
oh,
extremely nuanced song, and it has to do with the ugly history of like um treatment of indigenous people and African American people in the United States. So it definitely
and
has a lot of ugly texture to it. Um,
we're still seeing ripples of that today too, and it's
yeah,
ugly.
this song was a
Really
bit ahead of
ugly.
its time, I think. She talks about like how she used to
I
search
like
for
it
reservations
a
at
lot.
native
It was
lands.
catchy.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
catchy though.
it was definitely
But
catchy. I mean, it's got a great chorus.
it's one of those songs that has kind of a very obvious like social and political subtext, but it's just so
Yeah.
catchy that everyone kind of forgets about it. Like, do you know the song "Run to the Hills" by Iron Maiden?
Ooh, I
That's
don't know that
kind
one.
of
I'll
got
have
a
to check it
similar
out.
thing. Oh,
It
it's
has a
kind of a similar
political.
thing. It's about driving Native Americans off their land and like
Right, yeah. That's one of the
doing awful
causes that the
things.
Indigo Girls are probably the most passionate about is like Native American reparations
Yeah, they take a
and
sympathetic
recognition.
look at
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, of all of our nation's history, that is got to be the blackest spot upon it,
Yeah.
or the
I
reddest
think this
spot,
song's
depending
interesting
on.
because it's the first song on the album where Amy Ray starts to get into this sort of signature, very angsty, abrasive voice that she sometimes does when she's singing the last verse, and she has this really um, sort of angry sounding voice.
Well, that probably means she's just putting more passion into it.
Yeah,
She's really
she's
putting
very
her
passionate about this song,
best.
and it appears on several other songs later in the album. Um,
Yeah,
and I think it's a very special technique that she has with her voice, where she can be really sweet the one moment and then very angry and abrasive the next.
and I think it depends on the song too, for what is required for the song. You know,
Yeah,
how much emotion she's going to put forward into it. She never loses her touch though throughout the whole thing.
yeah,
They all
definitely,
both of them. They both keep it tight and melodic. Trying to
absolutely.
figure out the right words to
No,
describe it.
I think those are just
It's
the
just
right words. Yeah,
such a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, really.
yeah.
Okay, number 6, "Love Will Come to You."
What a beautiful song this is. I love this one.
It's a nice song.
It's like just a straight up folk song. I feel like it's probably the most
Yes.
unapologetically folk song on the album, and it's definitely like a love song. And like
Yeah,
I always get
yeah.
sad like listening to this one because like it's sort of about like giving love advice to your friends and then like not even be able to uh, get anything out of that advice yourself. And I think part of that is like I don't know if you knew that they were both of the Indigo Girls are LGBTQ. So like
Okay.
they
So
hadn't come
they're
out
so
at this
they're
point yet. What?
so they're lesbians then?
Yeah, basically.
Can I
So
am I
they
allowed to
hadn't come
say?
out. That's okay. They hadn't really come out at this point, and I feel like this song really gets to the heart of like what she was feeling at the time, like giving love advice to her friends, and yet sort of feeling detached from that because she, um,
Well,
a lot of the time
we
she,
weren't fully.
yeah,
Yeah.
we weren't very accepting back then, and I think that
No. I mean,
she wanted to,
arguably, we're still not entirely there yet. We are
yeah,
getting better. There is more representation, which is always a good
absolutely.
thing. But, it's kind of a taboo thing.
I would say so
So,
too. I mean,
I'm happy that they had the gall to go out and just, like kind of tell it without
Yeah.
really telling it.
But I think this is just a really sweet song about like love being
So,
love, and the last line is just the most beautiful line. The pieces that scatter, they learn to pretend there's more than love that matters. Like as if she's implying with that last line that love is literally the only thing that matters. And it actually echoes a tragically hip line from a
all
totally
you need
different
is
song.
love.
Yeah, but
Love is
that's
all
really
you
the
need.
sentiment of this song, and it was. I mean, at the time, I'm sure nobody guessed that it was, pushing an agenda of acceptance for other sexualities. But that's really kind of what
Well,
this song is doing. Is it's promoting acceptance and tolerance of love in all forms.
that is a good thing. I don't know if it's necessarily great if it's like shoving an agenda in your face, because then
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't always work. But this did it
this
so
isn't
well.
really an
It's
agenda.
subtle.
This is just a
It's
sweet,
just a nice song. It's a
entreaty
love song.
to the world of love. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I love this one. This was this is kind of a
Yeah,
weird
it's a
story
beautiful thing,
associated.
really.
So before I got this album on CD, I had it because my parents had it on tape. Um, and when I was
Oh,
little, I used to listen to it on
set.
tape all the time. And you know how sometimes tapes get eaten and they break. The tape got eaten right in
Yeah.
the middle of this song, and
Oh,
yeah, it
crap.
didn't sound
Well,
too
I'm
good. It
sure
was like,
that wasn't
oh,
fun.
come here. It was not that good. But
Well,
yeah,
that's why nobody uses cassette anymore.
yeah, the
They use
CD
either
is probably a
records
bit
or
of a better
CDs.
medium. Yeah,
Even then, records aren't always the most reliable. Neither are CDs. So now everybody's got it on their computer or their phone.
right.
But you know, it's just there's probably still a market for cassette out there. I just don't know of it.
Yeah, I think the cassettes are beginning to become popular in more of like the indie underground music scene because what I've gotten from I follow bandcamp.com on Instagram and they're always giving promos to their artist on their site. And a lot of
I
times
should,
artists will offer their music both on digital download and on cassette tape. And it's interesting
oh,
how they're sort of like reclaiming that. Even though the medium's very hard to work with, it's very unreliable and very volatile, but
yeah,
apparently it's making a comeback. And I mean, you never know. People
yeah.
love
I
what they
don't
love,
know.
you know?
I mean, even with like records that can be so easily scratched, I can see those being a little bit more manageable because they are just like kind of a bigger compact disc in a way. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah,
again,
I know what you mean, yeah.
it's old technology. I'm not an expert in this. I wouldn't hope to be an expert, really.
Yeah. Audio technology
Um,
is weird. It's very weird.
and
So I guess we
it's
finished.
continuing to change.
Yeah.
It's
I guess we
continuing to
finished side A of
change.
the album.
Oh, is that the end?
That's the end
Side
of
A?
side A of the album. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great side A
I'd
overall.
say it was a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some really beautiful
Uh,
songs.
yeah, I've already said I liked three of the songs that were on there, so
Yeah.
they got me good with the first side.
I honestly liked them all.
Okay, here comes side two.
Oh, this
Starting off with a cover of Mark Knopfler of the Dire
yeah.
Straits, which we have already previously covered on the show.
Yeah, I loved Brothers in Arms. That was a great
You
album.
care to watch us? Romeo and Juliet.
This is a great one. It
Another
originally
literary
appeared.
reference.
It was by
Yet
the time that they
another.
did this. Yeah, another literary reference, right? By the time they did this cover, the original song was already 11 years old. It appeared on a 1981 album from the Dire Straits, and and
So,
they but what I find so compelling about this is how different it is from the original. Amy does this basically. This is kind of like an Amy solo song, and it's really the only one like that. I mean, all of them have, even though they're written by one member or the other, they have some degree of involvement from the other member. But this one is really just straight, just Amy playing guitar and singing, and like she sings her heart out on this. Like her vocals on this are like what I aspire to be as a singer. Sometimes, like she she just absolutely gives it her all, and she like that one section where she just screams out that one line. It's like I have such a hard time getting that out of my head because it's so affecting and it's so it's so heart wrenching, like when she
You
screams
Romeo.
it out, like
Oh,
"Under the stars with you," like it's just like the best moment on the album. I mean, in terms of just the sheer force that she puts behind it.
yeah, this is kind of different from the other songs on
It's
here
very different.
too,
Yeah, it's as
especially
far as I
because
know,
it
it's the
is a
only cover.
cover.
Oh no, it's
Yeah.
not. I forgot.
Oh,
Do
was
you
there
know "Get
another
Together"
one?
by Chet Powers? It was like a '60s and
No.
'70s song. It appeared on
Yeah,
their
well,
first. It cover of that one appeared on their first album. You might know it.
uh,
Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody, love one another. You know that one, right? No,
not really.
no,
I Yeah, is
it's
it more
pretty popular.
obscure? Because
No, I think it's pretty
well,
popular. I put it in a lot of commercials
popular
and
in the
stuff.
'60s maybe, but
Maybe. I mean, it. I thought it was pretty popular,
I
but
mean
that appeared on their first album, Strange Fire.
that period's kind of fuzzy to me. Because really, I don't know. The only '60s music I know was probably the Beatles. Steppenwolf I know pretty well from the
Yeah,
'60s period.
they do a lot of.
Uh,
Yeah,
Nothing much oh, well, obviously when Woodstock came around, I know
yeah.
Hendrix and Joplin.
I think
So
one of the coolest things about them is that even though they write such beautiful original music, they're so willing to adapt covers. And I mean, even though there's only two covers that I can think of
yeah,
off the top of my head that appeared on their studio albums, they have a lot of covers on live albums and stuff. They did Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters by Elton John. They did Don't
yeah,
Think
that
Twice,
one
It's
I know.
Alright by Bob Dylan. They did something by Joni Mitchell. Um,
Oh,
Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by Buffy Sainte Marie. That's a really powerful Native American song
oh,
about
interesting.
like the treatment of Native Americans in the United States. Yeah,
Yeah, and if you
their
look
their
at the
live albums are
cover of
full of great stuff.
this, if you look at the cover of this album, it's got a very, kind of, I don't know, is it a Native American aesthetic? Because they're just,
I mean, maybe
I
I don't
want
think
to
they're.
say kind of.
I wouldn't say they're like appropriating anything, but I would say that it's
No, no, no.
very like it looks very like festive, like almost like like
Spiritual.
they're like
It's like a
decked out in like
spiritual
traditional wear, like got like face painting
like
and stuff
very
on. It's a very cool
yeah,
cover.
and hand paintings.
Yeah, and I believe this
It
was
almost
well, actually,
looks
they were featured on
skeletal.
every album cover up till All That We Let In. Actually, they were featured. Their faces were featured on almost all of their album covers. Actually,
Well, at least they wanted you to know who they were, I guess.
they definitely
Not
did. They were
afraid of
not
it.
shy about their appearance.
That's a good trait.
Definitely,
That's a good trait
definitely a
to
role
have.
model. But yeah, Romeo and Juliet. I mean, this is a fantastic song, and I mean, covers don't always go well on an album that's mostly comprised of originals, but this one fit in so well. Like you'd believe that this was an original Indigo Girls song with the originality
I
that they
kind of
bring to it.
forgot it was a cover for a
Yeah,
while,
same.
to be honest. Part of that is probably because I hadn't heard the original yet,
Yeah.
so I
Well,
didn't
still,
really
it's a
remember.
superb
I
song.
know Mark Knopfler, of course, but
Yeah,
it fit. Yeah, it fit the bill. I'd say it worked pretty well as a second side opener.
absolutely.
Uh, Next is not exactly a literary reference, but a
Well,
person who
it
wrote
is a reference to a
literature.
writer,
I
Virginia
guess
Woolf.
a writer, Virginia Woolf. Yeah.
Oh, this is such a beautiful. So what I found really
Now,
interesting is that this sort of carries over the themes of Galileo, of like reincarnation and like connections with all long dead, long lost, famous people from a million years ago. I mean, this was more recent, obviously. Virginia Woolf was a writer from the late 19th, early 20th century, but still, like
yeah.
this, she talks about there's a young girl
Let's
on a
see.
kind of a telephone line through time, and the voice at the other end calls like a long lost friend. That's such a good line. I mean, this whole song is just about her reading the diary of Virginia Woolf, which became famous only after her death, and just feeling this deep connection to this person from so long ago. Um, it's a beautiful song. It starts with strings again, um, and then you get into Emily's acoustic guitar finger picking style, and she almost like
And
does an intro, and then she gets into the meat of the song, so to say.
it's kind of a nice thing to know that she has such a dedicated love for Virginia Woolf even after her passing, because there's been
Yeah,
quite a few celebrity passings this year, and
true.
it's not a great thing. But as long as we remember them as they wanted us to,
Yeah,
as it was meant to be, you
exactly.
know, through their writing, through their music, through whatever, through their movies, whatever they did.
Yeah.
It's
The
just
thing that
nice.
always gets me about this song is that last chorus when she goes onto this sustained note, and it's alright, and she just holds that out for so long while Amy's doing the harmony underneath, and it's just such a beautiful climactic moment. This is really kind of like the musical cousin of Ghost in some ways. I feel like, even though it has more lyrical similarities to Galileo, it's sort of the musical cousin of Ghost. Um,
Yeah, in a way,
it follows the
I,
same
I think I
structure,
think
I'd say.
yeah,
Yeah,
probably structure. There's a lot of it's very poppy, this album. It's got folk-ish stuff, but it's got pop elements of
yeah.
it too.
But this has just such a great acoustic guitar motif. I think that's one of the best things they do is
Hmm.
they establish these really memorable, stuck in your head motifs with the acoustic guitar playing. So yeah,
Yeah, I
I'd
can't
rank that
always
among my
remember
favorites.
the words from their songs, but I can somewhat remember, their melodies.
Yeah.
Once in a
Dun,
while, I could get stuck in your
dun,
head.
dun, 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 dun.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was a
But anyway,
nice,
I'd rank
fitting
that among my
tribute
favorites.
to Virginia Woolf,
Yeah. It's a
and
great one.
now we come to the Chicken Man.
Oh, this is such a good song. Oh
I like
wow,
this song
yeah.
too.
This
It's
was
such a
kind of like
silly name, though.
it is a
It's such a
silly name,
silly
but
name.
it's a silly song overall. It's kind of weird. She's talking about all these dead animals, and it's just a very vivid, like
Yeah.
macabre song. Um
Mm.
it's very strange and weird. It's kind
No.
of a whirlwind of a song too. I mean, it starts off
Yeah, look at that.
with this guitar and harmonica part, where it's very simplistic, where it's just her singing, "I am an only child, born of the wild." She has this great opening vocal part,
Mm.
and then she starts getting into this
Yeah.
heavier part with more drums and stuff, and like more percussion and bass, and
I
then
like
that's
the
when she starts
progression
thinking about
of
all the dead
this.
animals and stuff, and um,
I I don't know if that's kind of keeping in with the spiritual theme. Maybe.
I think it is. I think this song is very very spiritually rich, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
She drops all these place names. She's on the road to Athens, on the road to Austin, Queen Street.
Another Greco reference too. There's a lot of I mentioned literary references, but
Well,
Greece
it's
is a
but it's
lot of thing. A
actually
lot of Greek
they're actually making a reference to
culture.
Athens, Georgia, which is the city where they grew up.
Oh, okay. That
So
makes more
I
sense.
mean, it certainly sounds like
Yeah.
the Greek city, but they were
Well,
I believe that they were talking about the
still,
Georgia city of Athens.
I'm still thinking of Galileo, I think.
That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah. But and
But
just
no, I
looking
know
at
what
the
you mean.
title, you would think it was just kind of like about a cowardly man,
It is
because
like by the end, she's like begging for this chicken man to hold her hand, like as though he were some sort of like weird, unconventional savior of hers. Like
kind of a hero
I don't know,
of hers, a
sort of like
personal hero.
sort of like an unlikely hero of the story. And I love the motifs, how
Yeah.
all these lyrical motifs at the end build, where she's got this, "I've been looking for a car, found myself beneath the stars. I've been looking for a girl, found a man and his world." And then she has her, "I am an only child." And she keeps building and building, adding more parts. And then at the end, she's just like, "Chicken man, hold my hand." And then there's that little stray note at the end with the harmonica. I thought that was kind of silly. But overall, I mean, just a powerful song and kind of like the emotional climax of the album.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it is more of the climax of the album, even though
yeah,
the next four songs definitely hold their own. But
they do. Yeah,
you know, it's kind of a winding down type of
it
thing.
is.
The first half is building up, and then the second half builds down. It's the same for most albums. Or maybe it is. I don't know. It depends on the album too. Sometimes it's just building up the whole way, and then it never goes anywhere. Sometimes it's starting high and then winding low. it differs.
Yeah, it's a great song
But
overall,
Chicken,
though.
but Chicken Man's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then next she talks about it's well, the name of the song is Airplane.
Oh
Now I
yeah.
took this kind of an aerophobia song, kind of a song
That
about
was
her
what I was
fear of
getting to. Is
flying.
that she's just afraid of
Yeah.
flying and like um
I don't blame her.
yeah. It's a very pop infused song, and it has these nice vocal harmonies. Um,
Yeah.
it makes it sound like a '60s doo wop song in some ways. I feel like with the vocal harmonies from the yeah, in the background. I feel like, and it has such a beautiful intro where they're just singing, "I'll be making a deal." Like I feel like it
Yeah.
just has a very nice fade out overall.
Yeah, I'd say so. Uh, I don't really have much else to
Yeah,
say about it. I
it
mean,
was a nice song. Nice song.
it is a nice song,
Right.
even if it is about the fear of flying, fear of failing in a way.
Yeah.
But and like I said, I don't blame her
Yeah.
for being
That's
afraid of
true. I can't believe I've never
flights.
done it in my life. I was going to do it for the for the West trip, but then that got canceled for the West trip that my Boy Scout troop was planning to take, but that got canceled. But yeah,
My mother said
maybe I'll fly
I've been
someday.
on a plane once,
You have?
but
Where
yeah,
to?
but she was pregnant with me at the time, so I didn't
Oh,
actually
I
get to
see.
experience it.
Oh, well, actually, I was too. Funnily enough, I think my mom went to Jamaica when she was pregnant with
Yeah,
me. That sounds fun.
I
I
don't
wish I
know.
was
It could have
there
been for a
in
trip,
reality, you know.
probably.
But whatever. I mean, I'm sure I'll get to fly someday.
Yeah, I'm skeptical about it. I don't know if I want to. I don't know.
I think it'll be
It
fun.
depends.
I'm sure she was flying around a lot because this was around the time they just started to become popular, and I'm sure they were touring a lot. They had to fly around to
They got
places.
to make their money one way or another.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got to be even tougher for musicians nowadays, especially, you know, because of everything shut down, and
yeah,
you
definitely,
got to provide somehow, some way.
absolutely.
Anyway, to get away from that dour note, let's move on to the
Yeah,
next song, Nashville, which it doesn't really have the Nashville
no,
sound, but
it doesn't. It's a little bit more country than the other songs, but still mostly folk rock. And I would say that I used to not like this song as much as the others, but I think I've kind of come around to it. It's pretty good.
okay.
I love the one
I
part where the guitars break out and it's just them two harmonizing. I fell on my knees to kiss your land, but you were so far down. I can't even see to stand in Nashville. It's a great part of the song. Did I
yeah,
tell you I was
it's
actually in
really
Nashville one time? I went there to see Bruce
really
Hornsby and Ricky Skaggs in concert. I was 10 years old. That was back when the two of them
a
toured together a lot.
while ago. Huh.
Yeah, because
Huh.
they're very different
Was it
genres.
fun?
Bruce Hornsby is like a jazz pianist, sort of like a jazz pop rock
Yeah.
pianist, and Ricky Skaggs is a
Hmm.
country bluegrass mandolin player. So like they're from
Huh.
very different worlds, but
What a
they
combo.
surprisingly they play off of each other very well. So they toured together for a while, and they did that one
Okay.
album together. That I think did I put you made you a Bruce
Yeah,
Hornsby
you
greatest
included
hits
one
movie.
of their songs
Dreaded
that they
Spoon.
did
That
together.
was a great one that they wrote together and they performed together.
Yeah, so this is kind of a nice song. It's really just kind of them, singing about,
Yeah.
I don't know, the wonders of
In some ways,
Nashville
it's
ish.
kind of it feels like a kind of anti-Nashville song. And the funny thing about this album is that earlier in the year, the Indigo Girls actually did a live stream where they played through the entirety of the album together again after like 20
Really?
years after it was released. They played
They're
through it together.
older
And
now.
Amy talked about this song and she talked about how she feels differently about Nashville now because back then she was really angry at Nashville because she felt like it was a very cold, hostile, unaccepting place. But now she's kind of come around and she has witnessed it become more accepting and more open. She likes it better now.
That's a good thing. And time will do things like that to
Yeah.
places. It'll change. I mean, we're already seeing that with the huge migration of Californians to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
This is a very
Texans aren't
biting
too
song.
happy about that, but
This
you
is
know,
kind
it
of a biting
depends.
song. I would say. I mean, it's got much angst, much anger.
Well, and it's really just kind of a product of its time too. Like you
Yeah.
said, she changed her opinion on it many years later.
Right.
It's still
That's
got
actually
nice
kind of what
melody
that's
and
actually strangely that's kind of what Emily did with Virginia Woolf too, and not because she doesn't still feel that Virginia Woolf was an amazing author, but she feels that she shouldn't have even had the right to read the diary because she realized that a diary is a very private thing and that she maybe kind of shouldn't have that the diary shouldn't have even been published and that she should never have read it because she came to realize that maybe that was kind of
well,
an invasion of the author's privacy because she
but
never really
wait,
meant for the diary to be published. So in
but
1997, on
there,
the Shaming of the Sun album, Emily wrote a follow-up song called "Burn All the Letters" about like how if you're going to write a diary, you should make sure it gets destroyed before you die, so that it doesn't get published.
well, well, wait a minute,
It's kind
because
of a weird take, but like I
yeah,
mean,
no, I don't necessarily agree with that.
well, you
Because
know
what
what's
about the
sad
Diary of Anne Frank
is
and
that in
her
the diary of
struggles?
Anne Frank talked about how one of her family members when they heard that the Nazis the SS were closing in on the location of their secret hiding space, they suggested burning the diary so that nobody would ever be able to find it, so that, because they respected Anne's privacy. But she knew that if she did ever die, she wanted this to be found and she wanted it to be used as a time
As a
capsule
learning
for
tool.
Holocaust, so that they would know what really happened
Mm.
and what she went through. So I mean, there's two sides to the coin. Like a diary is a very personal thing, and yeah, it's private. But at the same time, if it's a description of extraordinary circumstances that deserve to be remembered to history, and if the author's okay with it, then yeah, I would say that it's okay for a diary to be published.
So if it's necessary,
Yeah.
then
And I don't know what Virginia Woolf's wishes were in terms of the publication of her diary after her death, but I mean,
when did she pass away? I don't.
it was
What
sometime
year
in the
was
1940s. It was
it?
yeah, she actually killed herself. Unfortunately, there was a line in the song about it when it was for you when the river eclipsed your life. She jumped into a river. It was pretty sad. So that was what ended up happening.
Well, it was a complicated time back then, the
It
40s,
was, and
because
it was
we
very
were
easy to get depressed.
it was a wartime. It was wartime.
Yeah. Very depressing time.
And I'm
I think there were just a lot of personal demons she was battling.
I think that's why we're more perceptive and
Yeah, it's important to
helpful
be
to those
perceptive
who
about
are
mental health.
mentally ill now, or at
Yeah,
least mentally
absolutely.
suffering,
Yeah, I would
which
say
is a
so
good
too.
thing. I'm sure there's a line between being, mentally not all there and then just like a psychopath. But,
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, we definitely need to still have compassion for people who are struggling with mental illness, and we need to keep developing new sciences and therapies to help them.
that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to read Man's Search for Meaning. I'm going off on a tangent here, but
That's okay.
I do want to
There we go.
recommend it to anyone who's interested
Yeah, I
in
gotta
it
read
because
that
it
still
really
because I couldn't
opened
find it
my
at Barnes and
eyes
Noble.
to a few
I was going to read
things.
it, but then when I went to get my summer reading books, I couldn't find it at Barnes and Noble, but I could find
Mm,
the other one, the
you're
Paul
not gonna
Kalinowski book.
find it at Barnes and Noble. I
Really?
went to a used bookstore
Wow.
to get it,
Well, I'm
so
gonna have to look
I
somewhere
got
else
it
then, I
cheap.
guess, because
Yeah, I got it
wow.
cheap,
Yeah,
and that's good.
but the Paul
Yeah.
Kalinowski book, the When Breath Becomes Air, that's a great book too. I would also highly recommend that. It definitely
Okay.
takes a different look at like death and mortality and what it means to live.
I mean, what period in history did he like live through, or was that not really
Oh,
relevant
Paul
to it?
Kalinowski, his death was very recent. He was very
Wow.
young, and he only died in 2015.
Ooh, so
He was
5
only like
years
40,
ago.
so this all happened very recently, within this decade. He wrote the book, and it was
So
published after his
did
death.
he like take his own life, or did he just die
No,
of
he
damage?
died of cancer.
Oh,
That was what he was
cancer.
writing about. Is he had been diagnosed, and he wanted to write about it from like a med student's perspective and a doctor's perspective.
Mm.
Uh, what do I think
Yeah,
about death and
especially being a.
mortality? It was a really powerful testament to his life and to his feelings.
Well, that's
So I
good.
loved it. I thought it was great.
least it gave you a glimpse into, and then again, it's another one of those things where it's more of a
Yeah.
personal story being released, but as long as somebody can get something out of it, some personal comfort, I think it's important. But let's move on to the number 12, Let It Be Me.
Oh, this is a
This
great
one's
one.
a
I
little
love
more
this one.
spotty on.
I love
I
this one
don't
because
know.
I actually performed it. Back when everything was really still very raw in our country, when there was a lot of police brutality and everything was kind of when
It's
there was COVID
funny.
cases uprising and things were going very awry in the nation, and I performed this at a live stream concert, and I had to transpose the key because her singing is a bit out of my range, but I actually performed this one, and I really loved performing it, and so this was another one where I used to not like it as much, and now I like it a lot more.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's
Okay.
a great
Well,
one. I think it's probably
I
the
mean,
most
what?
blatantly political, but it's political in an uplifting way. It's political in the way that says, I recognize that I have the power to make a change and I'm going to go out and do it. That's the kind of message that it's sending.
Oh, okay. So it's more of like an empowering
It's
anthem,
definitely an
like
empowering.
call
It's
to
an
action.
anthem. It's a call to action. And
Yeah.
it's just got a very simple, nice chorus. And I love the line, if the world is night, shine my life like a light. I mean, what a great, very what just a beautifully simple line that is.
Yeah. I can see that bringing a lot of you know comfort to people
It's a very
as well
comforting,
as
uplifting song. I love it. I think it's a great one for the second to last song on the album.
yeah, second to last song. Yeah, but they ended off with an interesting one, Cedar Tree,
Oh
which I
yeah,
put it. I really like this one too as the last song. I think I like this one a little bit more than the first song, just a little,
yeah,
because I wasn't in love with the first song, but
right. I know what
this
you
one I
mean.
think, yeah.
But yeah, this one's got a great. I mean, it's just another. It's a really beautiful ballad. About again, kind of like losing a loved one, like sort of like Ghost again, with um,
But
yeah,
this
just
has
the
like
concept of
more,
planting a cedar tree for the one
yeah.
you lost.
So it gives a more permanent, you know, representation of the person. Whereas a ghost, you think is more of like a glimpse or like a whisper. But
Right.
as a
Yeah.
tree, you see it as like standing tall, firm,
Yeah.
and
What's the
in
line
your
that she
memory.
says? She says, "I stand where you stood. I stand for bad or good."
Yep. And I am your green, and you are wood.
Yeah. That's it's a
It's
really beautiful
really,
song. And what it
it
does so
is.
interesting is it's kind of like a final hurrah in the middle section where she goes from this very simple like 4/4 simple meter beat with the acoustic guitar, and then she launches into it like an Irish jig almost like it with the fiddle blazing and all these cool instruments going back and all this percussion and stuff. It's a great way to close out the album with like uh, a very simple textured soft song, but with a little bit of energy in the middle. Like just one final hurrah before the album closes out.
And it's now, I don't know. Should they have ended it on this, or should they have ended it on the previous song, do you think?
I think in a way that the combination of "Let It Be Me" and then "Cedar Tree" to end was actually kind of good. I liked the way they did that. It worked. It
Yeah.
worked pretty well.
Yeah. I don't really have much of a problem with it. Like I
Yeah.
said, I really liked Cedar Tree. It is a very beautiful song about, kind of keeping one's memory alive, even when they're not with us. I mean, or at least that's how I take it. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
That's
But
okay. I think you might be right.
I
But
mean,
anyway,
the last lyric is like the best we ever had.
best we ever
So
had.
I'm thinking it's more of a memoriam to the person
I
that
think
she's
so
trying to
too.
write. Who was this written by? This
This was
was
Amy.
Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was Amy. Yeah, and they had a kind of interesting where they alternated writing each
They did,
song.
except for one notable
Sort of
exception where in the
interesting.
beginning, the first one was written by Amy, 3 hits, and then the next two were both Emily songs, Galileo and Ghost, and then the next two
The
after
next
that
two after that
were
were
both
Ray, and then they
Were both
alternated.
Amy songs, and then they got back to just Amy, Emily, back and forth sort of thing,
Yeah,
which is a perfect balance. They've used that on almost all of their albums, just a balance between the two like
really.
that, going back and forth.
So they did it. So they did like most of them like that, where they started out like just kind of switching.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's how Look Long went. That's how I'd say that's pretty much how all of them went. I think.
Okay, maybe it's just for like I don't know. It's just to be fair.
I think it's to do with
A lot
that,
of
but then
things
also
are
just to
fixed.
give it a sense of cohesion, like you're just alternating back and forth, like everybody kind of gets their own
Everyone
turn.
gets
They both get to contribute an equal
well.
amount. You know, it gives it a nice,
The
satisfying.
main two songwriters, that is,
Yeah.
they both get their chance. I don't even really know who the other people are, except
Well, there's
there's a
so
bass
in
player.
terms of the actual Indigo girls, like it's really just them two, but they obviously have like backing musicians who accompany them
Oh
on these
yeah,
albums and accompany them on
like
tours.
session musicians.
Yeah, but in terms of the only two stalwart members of the Indigo Girls who have been there from the beginning to the end, or well, not the end, but just to
Right.
the present, are Amy and Emily, and they're the people we
Okay.
know as the Indigo Girls.
Yeah, and I'd say they hold their own though. They don't really.
Yeah, they definitely do.
I mean, I think it is better that they do have those backing musicians, and
Yeah,
the
yeah. There's
drummer
one
on here
famous.
was pretty good too,
Yeah,
as well as the.
Budgie. Do you know Budgie, the drummer? He was originally the drummer for kind of a famous English punk rock band. I
Budgie.
can't remember the name. Yeah, and then they also
Was it
had a lot of.
Budgie?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Did you recognize
Oh
his
no!
drawing style a bit?
Wait a minute. Maybe not. Hmm.
Who are the other musicians on this? Sarah Lee is their longtime bass guitarist. Well, actually, she was their bass guitarist during their early career, and then they replaced her with Claire Kenny.
Oh, okay.
But Sarah Lee
Yeah,
was on
yeah.
that.
He wasn't. I know there's a band called Budgie, but he was not part of it.
Oh,
He
okay.
was in a band called the Spitfire Boys in 1977 and the
Um,
Slits in '79.
I see.
So, you know,
And then I
he
think that there were actually two
moved around.
famous contributing singers on Galileo, um, Jackson Brown and David Crosby. Do you know them too?
Yes. Now those two I do
Yeah, David
recognize.
Crosby from Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Yeah,
And what
and
was the band he
Young,
was
depending
originally
on
from?
the person.
I can't
What?
remember what band he was originally from. The Birds. Oh, the Birds. Yeah. The Birds. I'm sorry, I forgot the Birds. And then Jackson Brown is just a cool singer-songwriter. So that was cool that they were able to get them in there.
I know his one song that he did for a movie, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Somebody's Baby is what it's called. It's the only one I know of him
Yeah.
really primarily
I guess
from.
we spent a
I
long
know
time
he's
on
like
this album,
backing
didn't
musician.
we? I mean, it does have 13 songs, so I
Okay.
shouldn't be too surprised.
No, I think it needed some more analysis too, especially for
Absolutely.
me. This being my first Indigo Girls like full album, I heard
Yeah.
a few of their other songs here and there. I think the first one I actually knew of was like Closer to Fine,
Closer to
I
Fine is the
think.
really famous one. It was also on the it was also in a pretty famous scene from The Office, which obviously
Really?
came a long time afterwards. But there's this
Oh,
hysterical scene
yeah.
where Andy Bernard and Jim Halper are like drunk at their desks. Um,
And they're
they're like two of
singing
the
it.
salesmen, and Andy's like this funny like musician guy, and it's when Andy and Jim are just starting to to know each other because Andy's new at the office, and Andy just starts singing this like in his sleep. I went to the doctor, I went to the and then Jim starts singing along, and they like become friends after that.
Aw, well, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of
Okay, so I guess that's the end of that.
yeah. I mean, I would give it a strong rating, probably a 9.5 out of 10
Oh
overall.
yeah.
I just think it's probably one of their best, most well put together albums. And as
Yeah,
many people have said, it does encapsulate that early '90s feeling very well.
yeah. I mean, especially since the music was it was changing so drastically at that
Yeah,
point. We had just come off of the '80s, which was like the glam period, kind of
right.
silly stuff, and now you've got well, there was a little bit of punk in there, but and then new wave. I forgot new wave
Right,
came.
yeah.
Oh, that was earlier though. But yeah, the '90s really took a little while to get into their own. I think it was obviously, it was after Nevermind, because that's the one
Right,
that
after that famous
everybody points
Nirvana
to.
album, yeah. That was quite the album.
But
Then you got REM, Indigo Girls.
I'd say this is pretty legit too. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I gotta say my rating now, don't I?
Sure, if you
You know
want.
what? I think I'll give it like a 9.2.
That's a
I
good
like
rating.
it a lot.
Yeah, same.
I mean, they are a little folky for me. I don't listen to folk a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, and granted,
But
I'm a little biased because I've been listening to this album for like a long time,
yeah.
since I was like 5. So it's always gonna have a special
Well,
place in my
that's
heart.
okay. Well,
But
thank you for
same
introducing
with
it
like
to me,
Abbey Road
though.
and Glass Houses. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, no problem. I was glad to have introduced you to it, and I would highly recommend you check out some of their other albums as well because they really are a great band.
I wrote them down. So,
One that has definitely stood the test of time.
all right, now we got to pick out what our next review will
Oh yeah,
be.
I completely forgot. We don't even have a next one yet, do we?
We don't have any
We could loop
clue.
back around and do Sergeant Pepper's. We've
We'll
been talking
keep
about
that as a
this.
solid maybe because I have
What
a
if we did that
plan
one
for
for our
that.
20th? What if we did that one for our 20th? Because that'd be
I
like a
was
cool, like,
thinking of doing that, and then maybe we'll do that as like a double review where we'll do maybe we'll do like one earlier and then one later in the same day, and they can both be part of our 20th, or just like we do them both at the same time. Because I think we could do that one and Pet Sounds by the Beatles. I mean, the
Beach Boys.
Beach
That'd be
Boys.
awesome. We
Beach
should
Boys.
absolutely do that. Pet Sounds and
I'm
Sergeant Pepper's
sorry.
double
What a glaring mistake.
double review for our 20th anniversary
Yeah.
or our 20th episode.
So yeah,
That's
Beatles
awesome.
did
But what should we
Sergeant
do in the
Pepper's.
meantime?
Beach Boys did
What should be our
Pet Sounds.
19th episode? Oh, and I see we're kind of actually running out of time. We spent a long time on this. Instagram times us out after an hour of going live, so
Oh really? Ooh,
we
wow.
only have 3 minutes left. So we'd better decide on one real quick.
Okay. I'm kind of tired.
You want to do Ghost of a Dog by Edie Brickell?
I don't really.
It's a really cool album. You'd probably like it. It's from 1990.
Okay, so that was that weird period where music was just kind of transitioning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I really like it though. Do you know Edie Brickell at all? She's actually Paul Simon's wife, and she had quite a career in the late 80s.
Oh, I was gonna say this album did kind of remind me of Paul Simon just a little bit, and
Yeah, it had similarities to Graceland, especially with sort of the ethnic music involved in it. Yeah, absolutely. But are you interested in doing the Edie Brickell album?
Maybe you should do. I had an idea where we could do something that kind of surprised us, an album that we didn't think we were gonna love, but we ended up really liking.
Sure.
And then we'll let our audience decide. We'll have to make it quick because, like you said, we're running out of time. But
well, another one I was thinking of was do you know the
And do I know it? That's the question. Do I know it?
Do you know the Wallflowers at all? Their album "Bringing Down the Horse." We could put that one against the Edie Brickell album.
Well, I had a different one in mind.
Which one did you think?
I don't know how much you know of Deep Purple.
Oh, Deep Purple.
This is not their most acclaimed album. Well, it's one of them, but it's not their most acclaimed album. It's called In Rock, and it's a very experimental. It's from the cusp of 1970. So, can we pit those two against each other?
Sure. In Rock and Bringing Down the Horse.
Yep.
That sounds great. And then we're pretty certain that for our 20th episode, we're doing a double review of Sgt. Pepper's and Pet Sounds. That's awesome.
Okay. All right. Well,
I love it.
I guess we better get going then.
Yeah, we better. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you
I
so
didn't
much,
realize that we was going to time
Adam.
us out so soon, but thank you so much for doing this with
Yeah.
me. I'm so glad you liked the
And
album.
thank you for joining us, whoever joined us this time.
Yep.
I mean, we
Have
never
a great
get a ton
day.
of people on these, but
I'll see ya.
no, it's
Bye.
always fun.
Thanks for
Bye.
tuning in. Bye.
Yep.